Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to my channel and to this video where I'm going to be showing you a bunch of new products. Don't get too excited. None of these are new releases. These are all just products that are new to me and to my collection. I'm going to be using some of them on camera and I'm just going to be showing you a few of the other ones. So first of all, let's talk about what's on my nails. The brand Madam Glam reached out to me and they wanted to send me out some of their gel polishes. So they sent me out their base coat and their top coat. They also sent me 2 colors of their gel polishes, and they also sent me out this mini lamp to cure the gel polish in. And I will say, as far as the formula of these gel polishes go, I've used a lot of gel polishes over the last few years, and they all kind of seem to be the same kind of formula, the same kind of consistency. And in my video that I posted a few weeks ago, if you remember, I've always had a few areas, definitely on the edges of my pinky nails, where gel polish never wants to stick. It doesn't matter what brand, what color, how many layers of top coat I use over top of it to seal it in. And with this brand, it actually stuck to those areas of my pinky nails. So that was the very first brand I've ever found that actually stuck there. So already a fan of that. At first, I thought that maybe it was gonna be a little bit too gloopy and a little bit too thick, but I did find that that actually helped to control where I was putting the gel. It stayed where I put it. Now, with every other brand of gel polish that I've ever used, it's almost like there's a weird clear base of the gel that wants to almost flood your cuticles. So you have to be really careful about how much you're using. And then the color, the pigment inside of the gel polish, wants to pull towards the inside, towards the middle of the nail. And I've had that happen with every other brand. This didn't do that. Again, I don't know if it's because it is a little bit thicker of a formula, but these didn't separate like that at all. So I was able to get it on, cure it. The polish stayed where I put it. I didn't have any of that weird shit where I ended up with bald patches. So as far as the formula of these gel polishes go, I'm a huge fucking fan. Now that said, the one downside that I did find, I feel like the brush in these polishes is a little too wide and a little too blunt on the very bottom. And I have a pretty decent sized nail bed, but I did find that the brush, it didn't allow me to take the polish all the way down to the very bottom towards my cuticles. It stopped before then, so I kind of had to take the brush and kind of tip it to the side and work it around the cuticles, if that makes sense. And I had to be really careful for it not to get messy around my cuticle. So that was really the only downside. I wish that nail polish brushes all were just a little bit more narrow and then rounded at the bottom instead of flat and blunt straight across, you know what I mean? Because the cuticle is rounded, it's not blunt and straight across. And then as far as the shades that they sent, I didn't pick my colors. They just kind of asked what kind of shades that I normally go for, and then they just kind of picked for me. So the shade Prodigy, this is a glittery black. I'm not trying to flick you off here. I don't know if you can really see the glitter in that polish. It's a very subtle glitter, but it's, a basic black polish with a glittery reflect in it. And then they also sent me out this shade called Class Dismissed. And this one is described as a dark green, and it does have glitter in it as well. They're calling it green, but it's really they kind of took the crumbs that were swept off the floor and kind of threw it all into one batch. It's almost like a non-color. It doesn't read as green at all. But other than that, I really like the formula of these gel polishes. And I did go on their website and I bought 4 more bottles. So I've got some new colors coming in that I'm really excited to play around with. So on their website, they have a VIP program, which is basically a $29 monthly subscription. And that money goes towards anything that you buy on their website. And then their gel polishes end up being 50% off for you, any of their gels. But if you're not trying to spend $30 a month to be a VIP and have a subscription for nail polish, they did give me a discount code for you guys that will save you 30%. If you follow the link in the description box and then enter the code Jeremy30 at checkout, you'll receive 30% off of your entire order. I don't receive a kickback from that. I'm not making a commission off that. That is just a code for you guys to use if you want to save some money. So if you want to check them out, look in the description box below and follow the link. Now let's get into some makeup. So the other day I went into Ulta and Morphe has their new MORPHE2 line, which I guess is aimed at a younger demographic. They've got some face products. I think they have some brushes. blushes, maybe some lip glosses and that kind of stuff. But the thing that caught my attention was this Hint Hint Skin Tint. This is like a lightweight moisturizing foundation. I got mine in the shade Hint of Ivory, which is meant for fair with neutral pink undertones. That's me. And I've actually gotten a chance to wear this a few times. So overall, I actually really like it. It's a really thin consistency. It's like sheer to medium buildable coverage. And I found that if you build up a few layers, it actually is a pretty solid medium coverage. And if you guys follow me on Instagram, then you've already seen that I did a 7-hour wear test using this foundation. Now, if you wear sunglasses, if you've got a mask on, if it gets touched, it's going to be removed. And even setting it with lots of powder, it does stay really movable and really pliable underneath powder. So even if you put sunglasses on for like a second and then take them off, it's immediately just like, it does not stay in place. So what I want to do today is I don't want to use this just on its own. I want to try something different, and I want to mix it down with a little bit of the MAC Face and Body Foundation. This is actually transfer proof. It's waterproof. This one does hold up pretty well. And I just kind of want to see how these mix together, how they look on the skin, because both of these formulas really do have that nice skin-like finish to them. They're both a really thin formula and consistency. So I'm gonna do like a good 50-50 mixture of, again, the Face and Body in N1 and the Hint Hint Skin Tint by MORPHE2. And I am just gonna mix those together with this little spatula on this palette, and then we can bounce that cocktail into the skin with a damp beauty blender and see what we end up with. Now, I am actually not leaving my house today, and so I am going to get a good read on how this wears on the skin all day without having to wear a mask and all of that stuff. I'm just gonna be doing some chores around the house, relaxing, that kind of stuff. We'll just kind of see what this does on my skin under kind of normal circumstances. And I have really oily skin, and so I wasn't expecting that the skin tint was going to hold up at all on my skin. I thought it was gonna separate. I thought it was gonna look really gross by the end of the day. But honestly, the 2 days that I wore it, my forehead and those areas that didn't get touched or budged or any of that kind of stuff, by the end of the day, the foundation looked really good on the skin. So if we ever get to that point where we don't have to wear a mask in public, then I think that this foundation is gonna be a really good one. It might even be a go-to for me. But for now, while we're having to do this, what I like to do is I like to keep a Studio Fix compact with me and a little brush. That way, at some point, I can just kind of touch up my foundation with that in areas that got all kind of fucked up from wearing a mask and all that, you know? Yeah, and I think that the combination of the skin tint and the Face and Body Foundation, not only is it a good color match for me, but I think that I really like the way that this looks on my skin. I figured that I would because I like both of them so much on their own. Again, they're very almost similar in formula. They're similar in consistency, and so I figured mixing them together, I couldn't really go wrong here. But again, we'll see how this lasts throughout the day. So that is how that is looking on my face. I'm gonna get up close so you can really see what that looks like. Now, again, it is more like a sheer to medium coverage here, so you can still definitely see some of the discoloration and the splotchiness that I have going on. Some of these broken capillaries on the side of my nose, that's not necessarily covered, but that's okay because I don't mind seeing a little bit of that through my foundation, and I can always go over that with some concealer and kind of hit, you know, certain areas like that that do need just a little bit of extra coverage. Now, speaking of concealers, I did get a few of those as well. So I recently picked up, this is the LA Girl Pro Conceal, and this is in the shade, does this have a shade? Cool Pink Corrector. I got this to correct the darkness that I have on my under eye area here. I've definitely had some darkness underneath my eyes for the past couple of years now, and that started when I got under eye filler. Now, I never had any of that darkness under my eyes before I got under eye filler, and the first couple of times that I got it done, I didn't have any of that darkness, but I was also using a Restylane product, and it didn't do anything. It was like, as soon as they shot that into my face, it completely disappeared. So the hollows that I had under my eyes, they didn't go anywhere. They didn't get filled in. My face just doesn't really like the Restylane products as much as it likes the Juvederm products. So once we went in with the Juvederm Velour, and a couple of times they had told me, you know, that they didn't want to use that filler underneath my eyes, because it definitely can show off like as blue, and it can create dark circles that you don't have there. And I didn't really care. I'm like, you know, if I have dark circles, I can cover those up. But if the hollows aren't getting filled in, then I still have the hollows there that you can see even with makeup. Does that make sense? So they did end up using the Juvederm Velour underneath my eyes. It did fill in the area. It has lasted, it's been almost 2 years since I've had under eye filler. And I mean, it's still filled, it's still there. But I do have some darkness like they said that I would have, but that's fine. I can just cover that up with some concealer. But I am just going to hit that with this little soft brush. Then I'm gonna go over top of this with a regular concealer, which has been in my collection for a few months now, but I've never actually used it. So this next one is gonna be a little bit of a first impression here today. And that is the Colourpop Pretty Fresh Hyaluronic Creamy Concealer. This is in the shade Light 33C. Actually, Corey had picked this up when we went shopping, when I did the video with him where I taught him how to put on guy liner, if you guys have seen that one. And he did pick up a concealer just for the sake of having one, but then we discovered that he really just kind of didn't need it. So he ended up just giving this to me because he knew that he was probably never going to use it. I'm not sure how much of this I'm supposed to even use. I have never used this one before. It definitely feels a little bit more on the thinner side for a concealer, which is probably fine, actually. It'll probably show off less texture underneath the eyes. And then I'm gonna use this brush here. This is the Zoeva 146 Concealer Perfector. I picked this one up at Ulta, and I really like this brush for concealing under the eyes. I like the softness of it. I like the density. I like just the overall shape of it's really nice for underneath the eyes. But yeah, so far, the consistency of that concealer, I really like that a lot, actually. It's super thin, but it seems like it's doing the job, so I don't know why I haven't tried this one out. It literally has been sitting in the back of a drawer for probably about 2 months, and when I was going through there, I found it, and I was like, oh, I never did use this concealer, so. Color-wise, it seems to be an okay match for me, especially for brightening the under eye area, so that might be a good one. Again, we'll see how this one lasts all day. We'll see if there's any creasing or any of that kind of stuff that goes on, but so far upon application, I really like the formula of that one. So I wonder if I will like that kind of on the nose a little bit, maybe here in this area. And I'm just gonna bounce that in with a beauty blender instead of using the brush, because I feel like a brush on my nose, I never really like the finish of anything. I definitely prefer a beauty blender on that area. Yeah, that seems like it has really decent coverage actually. And I really like the consistency of it. It's really thin. It doesn't seem like it's adding any kind of thickness, like any kind of extra texture to the skin. Now, after I get powder and everything else on there, that's gonna be extra layers that I have on. So it could be a completely different story then. But again, so far upon initial application, I'm kind of a fan of that, so. And then for some of these areas where I just have a little bit of extra blotchy redness and all that, I'm gonna go ahead in with my regular MAC Studio Finish Concealer in the shade NW20, and I'm just gonna hit those spots really quick just to make sure that everything is good and covered. Okay, so I've spot touched with some concealer. Everything's looking good, everything's looking even, but I do wanna get up close and I wanna show you underneath my eyes because this Colourpop concealer, it creased like a motherfucker. So I'm definitely gonna go in and I'm gonna kind of pat out that creasing before I go in and set those under eyes, and then go in really quickly with my loose powder and just kind of set all that in place. Then go ahead and also powder down my nose, the center of my face, center of the forehead, the chin, all of those kind of areas. So a few weeks ago, maybe a few months ago actually at this point, Z Palette was having a sale on some of their old discontinued palettes that they still had in stock. And I had been looking at this one for a long time. It's got almost like this oil spill kind of effect to it. And this is also a domed Z palette. So any of your domed products, you can depot those and put those into this palette, which is what I did. These are the MAC Mineralized Skin Finish powders. I do have a Studio Fix powder in here as well, but I did recently buy a few of the Mineralized Skin Finish powders. This is in the shade Medium Plus, and this is in the shade Medium Dark. I also have Warm Rose, which is discontinued. It's like a really light pink. And I also have Give Me Sun, which I use sometimes, not a lot. If I'm using self tanner, I will definitely use that one. But I've just been super ghostly pale this summer. I didn't really care to do a lot of self tanning. I just couldn't be bothered. So maybe I'll use that one in the future, but not today. I'm gonna use the shade Medium Plus on this large, soft, fluffy brush, and I'm really just gonna kind of hit the perimeter of the face just to kind of start to add a little bit of dimension into the face. It's gonna kind of act as like the base for my contour steps, which I'm gonna end up doing off camera. You guys have seen me do that a million times. This doesn't need to be a 45-minute long video, although I'm sure it will be anyway. And then I'm gonna take the shade Medium Dark on this is one of those Morphe Jeffree Star brushes. This is the JS2, and I'm just gonna kind of go over top of what I've done already, just on a smaller brush so that I can kind of get a little bit more of that pinpoint, accurate, kind of deeper contour thing going on. So that's what we're doing with this shade. And then I'm gonna go ahead off camera really quick. I'm gonna do the rest of my contouring steps. I'm gonna turn on the air conditioning for a few minutes, get some eyebrows and that kind of stuff on because none of that stuff is new. And then I'll be right back and we can get started on an eye look. Okay, so we've got the rest of the face all sorted out. Now we can move on to the eyes. Now, as far as eyeshadow goes, this isn't like a new palette, but kinda. So you guys know that I love to depot most of my eyeshadow palettes. There's some that I'm keeping in their original packaging, but for the most part, I like to destroy everything, pull all those shadows out of there, and kind of reconfigure my eyeshadows in palettes that I can draw inspiration from. And so I put together a new palette for myself. So this is a custom Z palette. So I've got a bunch of stuff going on in here. I've got some cool tones, I've got warm tones, I've got some pops of color, I've got some multi-chrome shadows going on in here. I kind of wanted to have a little bit of everything and something that could be more like my staple fall palette, you know what I mean? So this is what I'm gonna be working out of today. And I pretty much have it mapped out in my brain what I wanted to do today. Usually I just kind of jump in and throw shit on my eyes. But today today I kind of wanted to plan things out a tiny bit. So I'm gonna start with this like mustard shade up here in this corner. This is a matte eyeshadow from the brand Adept Cosmetics. They are an indie brand, and their eyeshadows don't have names. They're more like a letter and number system. So this one is in the shade ACM10, and that stands for Adept Cosmetics is the AC, the M is matte, and then the number 10. So they have like a number system as well. But this is basically just like a nice mustard shade. And I've used this once before. I don't think it was for a video. I think I just used it on its own for some pictures on my Instagram. I think there definitely is a look with this shadow. But I've been looking at their eyeshadows for a long time, and I recently just finally bought some. I don't know why I waited so long. They're really affordable. I think that their eyeshadows are all maybe around like $4 or $5. They have really nice magnetic palettes. I've got a couple of those. And so far, I think I have like 4 or 5 of their eyeshadows, and all of the ones that I have, the formula is really, really good. And then to add a little bit of brown into that look, I'm gonna go in with the shade Ouch. This is from the Jeffree Star Cosmetics Blood Sugar palette. Again, I've said this before, as far as the Blood Sugar palette goes, it's definitely very red heavy, but I was always drawn more towards the brown and the gold tones that are in that palette. So this one I really like a lot. This is probably my most used shade out of that palette, and I think it works with a lot of different looks. It's a really interesting kind of almost like a toffee colored brown. It's really interesting, so I like that one a lot. I'm just placing that one kind of right here in the crease, keeping it more towards the center of the eye because I want to work some green out this way. So this one plays really well with that shade from Adept. So I think I am gonna tap back into that mustard shade just to kind of add a little bit more of that tone into this area right here. And then I want to use an old favorite. This is Velvet Moss by MAC. I do not understand why this shade was discontinued. It's so fucking good. And I've had this shadow for probably close to a decade, and it still works so well. I mean, look at the pigment there. That's fucking crazy. For an eyeshadow that's like 10 years old to still be that pigmented and to still be super blendable, I mean, that's a really good eyeshadow there. Yeah, so I did get like a bald spot right there where I first laid down that shade, which is so funny because there I was singing its praises, and then it's gonna get all fucked up right there. Oh well, it is what it is. And I am gonna go in and deepen up in this area anyway. So hopefully we'll get that sorted out and it won't look all like fucked up right there. And then I'm also gonna take that shade on a pencil brush just on the outer corner of that lower lash line, just so I have something to blend into the next color that I'm gonna lay down, which is Plumage, which is also by MAC, and this is also just as old as Velvet Moss. So hopefully this one will work out pretty well. This is like a super dark teal kind of color, and I am going to blend that into the lower lash line. And I also want to deepen up my outer corner with this shade as well. So again, where I have that spot where Velvet Moss wanted to get a little bit funky, hopefully this will kind of fill in that spot and it won't look like a complete mess. And you know what? I actually didn't lay down any loose powder underneath my eyes before I started doing this. So hopefully the fallout situation isn't a complete and total nightmare. There we go, just to be on the safe side. Even though there wasn't any fallout, I just want to be careful, especially with these darker colors on the lower lash line here, because that's where things can definitely get a little bit messy. Let's get a little bit more of this mustardy shade. And I'm just gonna kind of blow that out a little bit more down here really quick. Now I do want to add just a little bit of brightness to this blue underneath my eye, so I'm going to use this shade here. This is an Inglot shadow. This is in the shade 317, and it's basically just like a matte teal color. I thought that that would work pretty well with plumage, just to kind of brighten that up a little bit closer to that inner corner there. I mean, it's makeup. It's not a tattoo. At the end of the day, it's gonna wash off your face. So even if you end up with this color combination that you're like, ah, fuck, that looks like shit, you know? It's like, yeah, wash it off. Do something different tomorrow. It's a little bit weird. It's a little bit outside of my comfort zone, that's for sure. But you know what? I don't hate it so far, so that's a good thing. So then for this area of the lid, not all the way out into the corner, but kind of like this area here, I wanna go into the shade Sponsored. This is from the Jackie Aina palette by Anastasia Beverly Hills. And I'm gonna take that just on this little packing brush. This is a Morphe M167. And I just want to press that right here. And it was really a toss-up between this shade and the shade Lounge by Urban Decay. They're both so similar, but this doesn't have the red tone to it that Lounge has. This one probably is a little bit closer to the shade Club by MAC. I don't even know if they make that shade anymore, but that was definitely always a favorite. So then I'm gonna go into another shade from Adept. This is ACS30, and again, I think that the S stands for Shimmer. This is a really pretty gold tone, and I am going to apply that with a finger more on the inner half of the lid. And I kind of thought that I wanted to bring this shade more all the way around into that inner corner as well. So let's see if I still feel like doing that once I see how this sits next to like the blue tones. Kind of blend that into Sponsored a little bit over here. And then I'm gonna take that same shade on a pencil brush and just kind of coat that whole inner corner area and kind of bring that over here to meet this teal shade. Now, I also want to use a little bit of this Galaxy shadow by JD Glow Cosmetics. This is in the shade 365. And, you know, this has that green tone to it. It might have a little bit of blue. It might have a little bit of red. There's a lot going on there, but there's a lot going on here. So we might as well just go ahead and add this to the pile and see if we like how this looks as well. And yeah, I think that works pretty well. So we've got the blue tone of Sponsored, we've got that orangey bronzy tone of the Adept shadow, and I think that this kind of golden green shift of 365 right in the middle there, I think that actually brings all of that together actually. So I'm a fan. Now, I think I do maybe want to bring a little bit of that shade maybe into this inner corner here as well. Again, I don't think that's going to brighten that area up at all, but it is going to add just a little bit of something there, you know? So go ahead and plop that down right there. And then I think what I'm gonna do, because that's really it as far as the eyeshadow goes for this look. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and finish the other eye off camera. Let me figure out what I wanna do for my waterline, get some mascara on, and then I can figure out what I wanna put on my lips to finish up this look. All right, so I actually didn't have anything new for lips, so I just went in with this Pretzel Drip lip gloss from Jeffree Star. On the waterline, I used this Landscape Green pencil from MAC, and I really like the way that everything came together as far as the eye look went. I wasn't really sure when I was putting it on, but now that I've got mascara, eyeliner, all that shit going on, I really like the way that it came out. I think it's weird, I think it's interesting. And so on this eye, in this this area right here, I did have some patchiness when I laid down Velvet Moss. I think that I just went in a little too heavy right away and just pounded that shade right into that area. So nothing really wanted to stick to that area, but I just kind of slowly built it up on this eye, and I didn't experience that patchiness that happened over here. So who knows, maybe it's user error, maybe that shadow is just really old, but no, I think it turned out really cool actually. Now I did recently pick up some setting sprays, which is weird for me because I'm not usually a fan. I got a couple of these MAC setting sprays. So I got the one that's Fix Plus All Day Hydrating Spray and Vitamin C. This is called Magic Radiance. Basically, I've been using this as a moisturizer and a primer. It has some stickiness to it, so foundation really wants to grip and adhere to it. I've really been liking it. And then for setting everything into place, I also picked up the Fix Plus Matte, which I've only used this maybe like once or twice, and I think that it does leave enough of a layer on top of the makeup that it does kind of make your foundation look a little thicker. It does add a layer to it. And again, it's not going to hold up to a mask or sunglasses or anything like that. So I haven't really been using this as much as I've been using the Magic Radiance one. But I do want to use it today, again, especially because I'm not going to be going anywhere. I'm just hanging out at home today, so I'm not going to have a mask on or anything like that. So I really will get to see if this actually keeps me matte all day. I'll be able to see if this foundation is going to break up or anything like that. You do want to give it a good shake before you use it. Now, I do want to give this a few sprays onto a towel before I spray my face with it. With the Fix Plus sprayers, you definitely want to spray a few times away from your face before you actually spray your face, or else it's just going to spit everywhere. So I'm gonna let that go ahead and dry down. I'm gonna go about my day. What time is it now? It is 1:45 in the afternoon. I'm gonna check in later tonight, and I'm not gonna touch anything up. I'm just gonna let it ride. I will come back at the end of the day, and we'll just kind of see how everything held up. All right, guys, it is now 10 o'clock at night, which means I've had this makeup on for a full 8 hours, no touch-ups, except for the lip gloss that I just put on because I'm not a total monster. I did have like my normal kind of mascara smudging and that kind of stuff happening. I'm definitely not matte anymore, which I didn't expect to be, but this held up really well, actually. If I had a mask on or sunglasses or any of that kind of stuff, it would have been destroyed in this area. But overall, I think it held up okay. The one area I was surprised it held up as well as it did, and I'm gonna get close in so you can really see, is this Colourpop Pretty Fresh Hyaluronic Creamy Concealer. I used that on my under eyes. I also used it on my nose, on my forehead a little bit, but the under eye area did amazingly well, which is crazy because it was really creasing when I first put it on before I set it. But it's such a thin consistency that even packed with a bunch of powder over top of it, this is probably the least makeup-y my under eye area has looked in a long time, and there's no creasing whatsoever. It looks so good on my under eye area. So let me get close in so you can really take a look. It didn't get gunky, it didn't get funky. I think that that area still looks really good, you know, considering I do have that mascara smudging there. But I would have taken care of that as it was happening on any normal day. But again, today was more about me seeing how this foundation and concealer combination held up through the day. And I think it did okay, especially considering how oily my skin is. But really, I think we're gonna have to wear masks in public for the next couple of years anyway. So I don't think we should really be expecting foundation to hold up all day. I think that you're really gonna have to take a touch-up kit, something to kind of patch areas up, just something basic. But I wouldn't leave the house in makeup without bringing something to kind of fix my base later on, you know what I mean? And I think that it's gonna be a few years before we're able to do just a full face of makeup, get out the door, and not have to worry about it getting bumped and smudged and kind of fucked up a little bit, you know what I mean? But anyway, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you on the next one.